Hello, universe. Welcome to the most spectacular wrestling podcast you will find on the internet. You are listening to Tag Me In, bro. I'm Joe Tantillo, and as always, I'm seated next to my terrific co-host, Taryn O'Connor. Say hi to the people, Taryn.
Hi to the people, Taryn.
If you're new to the show, the format is simple. Each week, we discuss all the magnificent moments, turbulent times, and stunning surprises that professional wrestling has to offer.
So turn your radio up and your opinions down, because we've got some hot tags coming up NXT, which means next.
Give me a hell yeah. I said give me a hell yeah.
Happy Wednesday, Tag Me In, bro universe. I hope everybody is doing well in New York City this week. It has felt like walking around in a shower everywhere that you go. There have been thunderstorms all week, but it is still somehow 80 degrees. I was not built for this, and I'm very, very eager for it to stop. And for fall to maybe be soon, which I know it's still July, and people are going to be like, well, you can't want fall yet. That's unacceptable. I don't care. I do. I've been rewatching Gilmore Girls, and I want fall, and I'm excited about it. And that is not the only thing that I am excited about, because we got an amazing SmackDown Live this week. This week's episode was so good, and I can't wait to talk about it with you guys. So we're gonna get straight to it. You guys don't want to miss out on one single second of Tag Me In Bro content. So go on Twitter right now and follow us at Tag Me In Bro. Our goal is to get to 8,000 Twitter followers by SummerSlam. We are almost there. We're at 7,500. So if you like the show, please go. Follow us, interact with us. We do so many fun polls and all kinds of fan engagement stuff, including polls we'll talk about later in the show. But I hope you guys are excited, because the show is about to go down in a big way. So if you didn't already know, today, tomorrow, and every day, we are talking wrestling. So first things first, we will cover our SmackDown speed through, where we'll give you our analysis of the most important bits of last night's show. After that, we've got our Hi to the People segment, where we want to engage with you guys to find out more about your views on Rusev Day. Then we're going to move on to our main event, where we'll be talking about the question on everyone's mind this week, and then we will close out the show with our stars of the night. This week, the question on everyone's mind that we're going to talk about is whether or not it was a wise decision to announce AJ Styles' SummerSlam opponent. But we'll be talking about that much more in the main event. So we're going to get straight to our SmackDown speed through. Woo! Here are the only 5 things you need to know about SmackDown Live this week. Number 5, Andrade Cien Almas beats Rusev. Number 4, Becky Lynch beats Carmella. Number 3, Samoa Joe versus AJ Styles is announced for SummerSlam. Number 2, Maurice, or Mrs., returns with The Miz to SmackDown Live to promo their new show, Miz and Mrs. And number 1, the RKO fire promo of the century, potentially of his career. So good. And because we want to get to that very quickly, let's start at the bottom. Almas had a match this week, which I think is so important to highlight, because we talked, our main event last week was about the trajectory of Andrade and how he's been treated since he got to the main roster. And having this showing with Rusev, I think, is not only so important because Rusev just had an opportunity at the WWE Heavyweight World Championship, but also because Andrade needs that television time. It's so good to see him consistently on TV, because as we've seen with some NXT stars, when they come up to the main roster, that lack of airtime can really be the thing that buries them. It's not even about if they're having good or bad matches. If they can't have matches at all, then what is the point? But pairing Almas with Rusev is also, I think, such a smart decision, because you've got Rusev, who has Aiden English and Lana, and you've got Andrade, who has Zelina Vega. Now, Zelina Vega and Lana, obvious immediate foils to each other. Perfect comparisons, because Lana is and all right out there, Lana fans, but Lana's just pretty and there to be a little bit maniacal. Zelina Vega is incredibly smart and pretty and there to be maniacal. So it gives them a really interesting battle to fight against each other while those men are also fighting in the ring. And then you've got Aiden English, who in this particular match did come out. Zelina Vega jumped on his back. They got pushed into Lana. It caused a giant distraction. And from there, Andrade was able to pick up the win. I think a giant win for Andrade because Rusev is, coming off of, a push. I wouldn't say the biggest push, but a push, which is good. He's very, very over, which is great. His storyline is very important, and especially important to, the SmackDown Live week-to-week show, which I think is amazing because, having Andrade linked to that does kind of guarantee more airtime, a little bit more consistency of being there. We got to see Zelina Vega working a little bit more. I adore Zelina Vega, so I am so excited we got to see more of her. And we got to see Andrade pick up the win. So very, very happy with all of that. I hope we see a lot more of Andrade to come. Now, number 4, Becky Lynch beat Carmella. Not that any of us had any doubt in our minds that the last kicker could do that. But in this particular incident, the thing that is so exciting is that means that Becky is officially the number 1 contender to Carmella's SmackDown Live Championship. And we are going to see that championship defense at SummerSlam. Yay! Yay, Becky! It's such a moment that Becky Lynch has deserved. I can't think of anyone more deserving at this present moment of that kind of opportunity. The opportunity to get to potentially win that belt, and I think she will win that belt, but at a Big 4 pay-per-view is going to be amazing. I'm excited about it. I think she's the perfect person to dethrone Carmella. And my hope is that this week's kind of elimination of James Ellsworth means that Becky will get to regain that title with her as the inaugural SmackDown Live Women's Champion. But she'll get to have that second title reign free of any weirdness, any malarkey, any kind of mischievous behavior. And I can't wait to see the promos that we get on the way there, because Becky Lynch is hilarious. Her feuds with Carmella have been almost exclusively via Twitter and always wonderful. So I'm excited to see what they do with that. But yay, congrats, Becky. Number 3. Okay, so the big thing advertised from last week on SmackDown Live was that this week, Paige was going to announce who AJ Styles' opponent would be for SummerSlam. Now, this segment started with Paige coming down, making her and AJ had kind of a moment where they just talked about Evolution, which is obviously exciting. It's the all-female pay-per-view coming up at the end of October. But then Paige was like, I have in this contract the name of your opponent, and James Ellsworth's music hit. He came out. He was like, I'm going to fight you. He was like, I've already won 3 times against AJ Styles. He was like, I came back here for that championship, blah, blah, blah. Paige promptly made fun of him. He made fun of Paige, and then she fired him. It was a slightly odd back and forth, I would say, between the two. It was a little bit uncomfortable, but it did lead to James Ellsworth being fired, something that I can always kind of get behind. So, goodbye, James Ellsworth. I hope for the long haul, I hope we do not see him come back for a while. Not because I do not like James Ellsworth. I think the character is fun. I think the way that he is used with Carmella is only demeaning to the women's division. And I will stand by that. So, so I'm excited to see them stand on their own without him. But, back to the point at hand. Paige then came back. Samoa Joe came out and was like, the clock is ticking and I'm going to be the champion soon. And she was like, by the way, you were who I chose. You were my choice for this. So it was officially solidified that at SummerSlam for the WWE World Championship, we are going to get AJ Styles versus Samoa Joe, an indie match for the years that I'm certain we were not expecting to get, but that it was widely speculated Samoa Joe would be the choice. I think it will end up being a good match. I'm excited to see how they do in the lead up to that. Styles is very good on the mic. Samoa Joe's given some fire promos, some kind of flat ones, so I think it'll really be a test of the writing and the story to see how they build that anticipation, because otherwise, which again we'll talk about later in the main event, because it is about this kind of idea that we didn't look for a number 1 contender, we just chose one, but an idea that are we just looking at another dream match? And is that how we're kind of booking Styles' time here? But again, we'll talk more about that later. Number 2, moving forward, was the return, not necessarily of The Miz, but of the real iconic duo, The Miz and Maurice, and now the iconic trio, including their baby, Monroe Sky. So this week's episode of SmackDown Live started with a limousine pulling up. It was like an outside the arena bit. The limo pulls up, and who is in it but The Miz, and a returning Maurice, and a returning, I just new to the world, baby Monroe Sky. And that was kind of it. It was just that they were there. And then the main event really was this Miz TV, not Miz TV promo segment about, Miz and Mrs., which is their reality TV show that was airing and premiering immediately after last night's episode of SmackDown Live on the USA Network. But when they went to cut to their fun package, they had like a clip show put together of the Miz's worst moments, shall we say, put together by none other than our favorite, shockingly missing from this episode, wrestler Daniel Bryan. So Daniel Bryan came out. The Miz had like a baby and like a baby Bjorn on him. Only to reveal that was a fake baby, not Monroe Sky in the slightest. And he like drops the baby, he kicks Daniel Bryan, and the Miz is standing tall at the end of this section. A weird way for us to finally segue into the Miz versus Daniel Bryan feud. Weird is exactly the word that I'll say. Unexpected, yes. Surprising, yes. What would have been my choice? No. But am I mad that we're finally getting to the Miz versus Daniel Bryan? No. I am excited. I am thrilled. But as with quite a few of these setups for SummerSlam, the match has all the potential in the world to be incredible. And I think with all of these, it goes as well to say that, like, the fans are excited for all of them. What's really reliant on how well this goes is how they write it from here on out. So I do think what this episode of SmackDown gave us was so many little bits and pieces to be excited for. So many little bites, so many little tastes of what we are about to get for SummerSlam. And the card looks pretty fucking stacked, guys. Like, it looks like it is going to be a phenomenal pay-per-view. No pun intended. But I think what it's really about is how they're going to build these feuds, the logic and the layering that they're going to use to really compel us to want to see these people fight. And I think especially for Daniel Bryan and The Miz, a feud that we have waited on for so long that, fate couldn't have told us we were going to have because Daniel Bryan was retired. Like, this feud, I think, can mean so much and does mean so much to the fans that I really just hope that they play it a little more closely to that and a little more far away from the fact that Miz and Mrs. needs ratings. That's my hope. And then number one, a moment I did not expect, but the greatest, Randall Keith Orton came out. So this was the real first in-arena segment of SmackDown Live last night, and gave this fucking fire promo about why he is back as a heel, essentially, and why he felt the need to touch the inside of Jeff Hardy's earlobes last week on SmackDown Live. And he was like, he was basically like, I've read your fan theories and you're wrong. He was like, it is not because we have old heat. He was like, it is not because of the SmackDown top 10 list, RIP. I so wish we would just literally never bring that up again, but somehow it always does come up. But he was like, it's not about that. He was like, and he used a lot of very, like, real criticisms. Like, I know we had, an episode of this show where our question of the week from Tommy and I was literally, should Randy retire? And he used a lot of those widely kind of renowned crowd and fan criticisms, which were that he was like, I am a WWE constant. I have been here for 16 years, and he was like, you don't respect me. And he was like, you don't respect me because I wasn't an indie kid who worked my way up. You don't respect me because I don't have, a shit ton of ever-changing gimmicks and ever-changing t-shirts and colors and catchphrases. He was like, you don't like me because I'm not a stunt master. I'm not flying off the top ropes. He's not an acrobat. And then he was like, but you know what? He was like, I cut my teeth in front of millions of people. I cut my teeth in the best business there was. I have only learned from the best there is. He had a nice bit, which I do think I at least do forget sometimes, where he was like, I started with the best that there ever will be, and none of those guys are here now, and I'm still here. And I do think we, He is. He had another great moment where he was like, I started as the legend killer, but I know what a legend really is. And you're like, you're right. It's Randy. Like, Randy is a legend. Absolutely. And his career has been one that people, could only absolutely dream about. I mean, he was the youngest ever WWE heavyweight champion. That's incredible. That is saying something. But in this promo, it was it was amazing. And for Randy Orton, who I think always has the potential to do incredibly well in promos, I think is often written into shitty feuds, like really shitty fucking feuds, but it's because he's been a babyface this whole time. We know from his own, interviews and things that Randy prefers to be the heel. We finally get to see him as the heel, which is what so many of us have been asking for so long, and I am here for it. And he said he is here to end Jeff Hardy's career, and you know what? Like, bye, Jeff. Like, let's see it happen. I am here for Randy Keith Orton. And what he said, to finish it off, just as he did, was that he was like, I know what a real legend is. And it involves he was like, I know the 3 deadliest letters in sports entertainment. And it's Randall, Keith, and then he dropped the mic. So, hey, we're back. The RKO is back out of nowhere with some absolute fire. And so that has been our SmackDown Live speed through. We thought the episode was incredible. There are things that didn't make it onto our top 5 list that were still amazing parts of this episode. For 2 hours of wrestling television, it had so much packed in. We didn't get to talk about Sanity in the New Day. We did not get to talk about the return of the Bar. We did not get to talk about Asuka's squash match. Like, there was so much in this episode. So if you didn't get the chance to watch it, go back, watch the matches. It was so good. And we are really excited to hear your thoughts about it on social media. And speaking of social media, it is time to say hi to the people. This week on Hi to the People, we want to know your thoughts on who should manage Rusev Day. We'll be running a Twitter poll for the next 72 hours and discussing the results here on our show next week. So let us know exactly what you think. We've seen like the kind of beginnings, the embers of the breakup potentially between Rusev and Aiden English. Should Rusev stay with Aiden English? Should he go back to having Lana manage him? Should he be his own free bird, his own strong woman who don't need no man? You can vote on Twitter and let us know by tweeting at us, by using the hashtag #HotTag, or by emailing us if you want, tagmeandbro@gmail.com. Share your opinions, maybe have your thoughts read out on the show. Every week we read out some of our favorite responses. And now we're going to talk about the results of last week's topic. So last week we asked a pretty straightforward and simple question. We just said, who do you think Paige will announce as the #1 contender to AJ Styles' championship for SmackDown? You guys overwhelmingly said Samoa Joe. 77% of the vote went to Samoa Joe. And the next position, interestingly enough, was tied between either The Miz or Andrade. While either of those would be very interesting matches that I'd love to see at some point, I do think that Samoa Joe is the right choice of the bunch and batch that we gave you. We didn't really get any responses. I think our tweet got shadow banned, which is a sad thing that happens sometimes because we do so much engagement. But please check that because we do retweet stuff, especially when it's been shadow banned a little bit. So always make sure that you're checking in on the page. We have so much for you guys to engage with, and we are so curious. We love reading your thoughts. So let us know who you think should manage Rusev for the rest of the summer, for maybe the rest of ever, as every day is Rusev Day. And now it is time for our main event. Today on our main event, we are talking about whether or not it was a wise decision to announce who the #1 contender to AJ Styles championship would be for SummerSlam, just on an average SmackDown Live, on just a general promo. Joining me is my co-host, Tommy.
Hello.
Hello, and welcome back.
Yes, I have taken I've taken Lana's Russian accent, which she seems to have lost now.
I know. She only is Russian when she says Rusev.
Yeah.
And after that,
she does a lot of R's.
Returned to becoming just American.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Probably better in the long run.
Here's the thing. The jig is up.
Yeah.
She's been on Total Divas for enough seasons now that, the jig is up. We all know. But less about Lana.
Yes.
Only slightly. So, I think the reason we found this so interesting is I, at least, have never seen a Big Four where the treatment of the WWE Championship was such that the GM just came out and announced the opponent.
Yeah, it is sort of just out of nowhere.
Yes, and so normally, as I would say, in the world of pro wrestling, there is the quest. I feel like I talk about it, like we talk about it all the time on the show, but I feel like I use the same verbiage because, honestly, I feel like I've heard Paul Heyman say it a lot, and I think he speaks really eloquently about it, but that there is this quest for the number one contender, the quest to find the one opponent who is worthy of challenging a champion. In this scenario, SummerSlam is a Big Four pay-per-view. You could argue it is the two of a Big Two scenario. And we didn't get that quest. We just got a name announcement. And they knew who it was going to be because they told us last week. They said, get ready. Next week, we're going to tell you who it is.
Yeah.
So, with the result being that was Samoa Joe, and we're going to see Samoa Joe and AJ Styles at SummerSlam, do you think that it was a smart decision for them to skip that quest for the number one contender and dive straight into this is your opponent? Go.
Well, so, the short answer from me is no. I don't think it was a smart way to do it, or the best way to do it. But that said, it should be Samoa Joe. Samoa Joe is the guy to take on AJ Styles at SummerSlam, and that's kind of been in the back of our minds for a while as something that should happen. I do think, though, there is something to be said for when you kind of just give someone an opportunity, you really devalue what it means to be a contender for it. Rusev earning that opportunity at Extreme Rules allowed us to get invested in the idea, oh my gosh, I wanted him to win the match where he got his number one contendership, and I was behind the idea. I didn't want him to win the match at Extreme Rules, but I was behind the idea that it would be really cool to see him become the champion, because you kind of get to go along with their journey a little bit. You see them in their stages, but Samoa Joe just kind of being handed this number one contendership, though very deserved, I think devalues the process and also kind of buries your other talent without even having Samoa Joe go over them in the first place. By not having it's like a Jason Jordan or an Andrade type situation. You win in a losing effort. No one has the opportunity as a single star to say, oh, I was able to show my stuff in a number one contenders match against Samoa Joe, and then Samoa Joe beat me, that's it, he's the number one contender. He had a match with R-Truth this week that lasted 2-3 minutes. To me, it's very odd to see a squash match of someone who's having their very proudly announced first match since WrestleMania come around and win and then go right to the main event. I think it's a little problematic for me.
I totally understand that. And on many levels, I completely agree. Because I think there's something especially strange in this idea that if management, if we are to believe in kayfabe world, that management is just selecting opponents for their champion, is it because A, they believe in their champion, or B, because they don't? Because there is a difference between someone saying, I want you to fight AJ Styles, and saying, I want to fight AJ Styles.
Yeah.
And in that moment, I think we lose a lot of this idea of if they're saying, we're announcing your opponent, and I chose Samoa Joe, I don't think we've seen enough of Samoa Joe recently that it makes sense for us to either say, oh boy, they chose him because he's gonna take the title from AJ Styles. And I also don't think we've, in that converse, we haven't seen enough of him that we can say, oh, there's no way. It's just a weird exhibition match. AJ's going to retain. But it does start to have that exhibition match feeling of almost like there isn't a title on the line, and almost like the prize is just getting to fight AJ Styles.
Yeah. I mean, I completely agree. I mean, I think you could easily argue that the way that we do number one contenderships on shows like NXT and especially 205 Live, where the general manager is such an important part of the way that show works, that like Drake Maverick always has his eye on every match that he books on 205 Live, trying to say, okay, who is the person who is deserving of an opportunity for what is truly the only prize on the entire show. You could argue, because AJ Styles is such a cemented champion, that the top prize is just to go up against him, almost. But Paige hasn't, though she has been very active, she hasn't made it clear that she is always watching for the next person. It kind of just came out of nowhere last week that she is like kind of changing her focus from James Ellsworth being a dick to I know who the number one contender is going to be. I think it's a little disingenuous in that form. And again, I do not disagree with the outcome. I think Samoa Joe versus AJ Styles is going to be a fantastic second main event for SummerSlam. I think one big upside of doing it this way is that you kind of get all the machinations over with. Like, here we are, we know what the match is going to be more weeks out than we would otherwise. And what's nice about that is you got time to build a feud based around something other than just Samoa Joe, scary man, chokes people. AJ Styles, you like him, so do I. Go.
Absolutely. And I do think that there are some benefits that, while I think this strategy around announcing an opponent is rather unusual, I think there are some massive benefits that we do get to see with that. And that being, I completely agree with you and think you're very correct. Samoa Joe, an excellent choice, an obvious choice in terms of look at the top heels on the SmackDown brand who viably seems like they have the movement to go up the ladder in that way, are not currently involved in something that we've already seen mentioned on TV. Samoa Joe did mention it. I remember, when he first came to SmackDown Live and we were in that kind of midst of figuring things out with the dual-branded pay-per-views.
Yeah,
he was kind of like, it doesn't matter what championship it is, I'm going to fight for it. But at least that gave us that nugget.
Yeah.
And I would actually say that SummerSlam is a lot closer than we think it is. At least than I think it is.
Yeah. It's like, 3 weeks away?
Yeah, very much so. And so with Extreme Rules feeling, again, quite recent, we're a week and a half removed?
Yeah.
I think that in my mind, there's a big part of like, whoa. Why is there this rush to announce this opponent? But AJ Styles is so cemented that he's kind of been rapid fire defending this championship.
Yeah.
He's absolutely a fighting champion, but these feuds have not been, on some level, have not been feuds.
Yeah.
Shinsuke Nakamura was a dream match that kind of turned into a sour half feud.
Yeah.
Rusev Day was a transitional feud.
Definitely.
Will we see this be a longer feud? Very unclear. But I understand that they needed to establish that right away.
Absolutely.
Because SummerSlam is, I believe, the 19th of August, which means that they have,
3
more episodes to really establish this feud.
Yeah.
And in that kind of time, on a show like SmackDown Live, we said it earlier in the top 5. We didn't even have enough time to talk about, every real segment of the show. We really only highlighted the things we thought were important.
Mm-hmm.
They're doing the same thing. They don't really have time to do an hour-long gauntlet match.
Yeah.
Because an hour-long gauntlet match is half the show.
Absolutely.
So which title feuds do you start to cut? And you can't really lose any of those feuds, like in terms of airtime. They all need whatever solid brick of time that they're going to get in the 3 weeks leading up to that pay-per-view.
Absolutely. It's very odd that that nothing is going forward from Extreme Rules. Like, it was very transitional in that every single feud around championships is gone. Kane is gone. Team Hell No is no more. Rusev is not getting a rematch. Shinsuke is the champion, and Jeff Hardy is seemingly gone from his earlobe being pulled. Oh, that was like the grossest thing I have ever seen in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh.
But that being said, Asuka is beating jobbers, but she's not in line for that championship anymore.
She's out of the picture. I guess they really do have to put the pedal to the metal before they get to Brooklyn. So, I mean, from a we have 3 episodes to make a feud interesting perspective, absolutely. I do think... I'm always of the mindset that you have to deserve and you have to earn your opportunity, and SmackDown Live, land of opportunity, not something that's been said a lot recently. I think that was very much a Daniel Bryan, Shane McMahon thing, just that they say and that they offer people opportunities. But I think people need to earn it a little bit more, and I would like to see that more often.
I agree. And I think that in the next coming weeks, it'll be very interesting to see how they allocate that time, whether it is to promos or to in-ring work, to establish this idea of ownership, and of deservedness when it comes to these feuds and these contenders.
Absolutely. Something beyond just Paige reprimanding Samoa Joe after he signed the contract out of nowhere and was like, yeah, I was going to pick you anyway, so for these reasons... which I don't remember. He's just Samoa Joe. He's like a badass. He deserves it. But you got to beat someone to get there, I think.
I agree. Maybe someone just a touch above R-Truth.
Yeah.
But that has been a great discussion. I would love to hear any thoughts that you guys have as fans. So please tweet at us. Let us know if you think it was the right decision, the wrong decision. I think that regardless of how they went about it, we are all excited for the outcome very, very excited to see how the next few weeks of TV time play into these feuds that they have prepped us for.
If SmackDown Live lives up to this episode for the rest of the kind of road to SummerSlam, we are in for a treat.
Oh, yeah. And now we're going to finish off the show that we do every week with our Stars of the Night.
Our number 3 star of the night, Monroe Sky Mizanin, coming out of nowhere to kind of kick off this feud that's finally happening between The Miz and Daniel Bryan. We're all very excited for this feud. Is it starting in the way that we thought it might, with jokes back and forth? Maybe not. But it's happening, and for her first time on TV, Monroe Sky is already becoming one of the most important parts of the feud that we have been waiting many, many years for. Number 2, Samoa Joe. While we just talked for a little while about why he may not have earned his opportunity in a very specific watershed 1, 2, 3 kind of pin moment, Samoa Joe has been killing it over the past few months since being traded over to SmackDown Live. He has been announced as the number 1 contender, and he, in a totally destructive effort against R-Truth, completely demolished him and signed his name on the dotted line. We are getting ready for SummerSlam, and we are excited. And number 1 is Randy Orton. Someone Taryn mentioned before that we were asking you guys, and we were asking ourselves, is it time for Randy to get old Yellard and put out to pasture? He comes back as a heel, and I don't think I have ever been so enthralled with an older guy in such a long time. He is truly a legend. First the legend killer, now a legend in his own right that's just going to be a killer in his own right. We are so excited to watch him go over the next few weeks into SummerSlam. He could be in any feud. I want to see it. Everyone wants to see it. You want to see it. And we are so excited that he is back as a heel and ready to kick ass. Randy, you deserve it. That'll do it for us here at Tag Me In Bro. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at Tag Me In Bro and subscribe to the podcast wherever you find those. As always, we want to hear what you think about SmackDown Live and everything else in the wild world of wrestling. So be sure to tweet at us at Tag Me In Bro. Never forget it. I've been Tommy Rowe. Thanks to my co-host Taryn O'Connor. We will see you guys next week. Goodbye, universe.